Do let me know if there's anybody else.
Blake and I went to.
Okay, good evening, everybody. We're gonna go ahead and get started.
This is very small.
Thank you for coming. We're gonna go through, this is the packet. We've broken it down a little bit of different ways. We have about 9 slides to, and then we'll open it up to questions, but especially since we have an intimate group here, you spin it, so hopefully, let's take a chance of introducing everybody. I'm Carl Stevens, I'm your general manager. And let's go over there and come across. So
Sure.
Kimberly?
Hello, I'm Kimberly McDowell, Executive Administrator. Good afternoon, Lynn Lewis, Communications Director.
Patty Morgan, former board president.
Don Mazzone, current board president.
Bill Ansley, current treasurer.
Sean Burgess, Public Works Director.
Marion Mackel, vice president of the board.
Vicki McElreath, I'm on the board. I serve on the Finance Committee and on the Security Committee, or Safety Committee.
Yes, and let's do our guests also.
Dennis Keaton, resident.
Jeff Figgis, resident.
Brenna McKenna, resident, also on the communication board.
Lisa Olson, resident at large.
Woman on the street.
Woman on the street, communications committee, amazing woman. Rosemary Mackey, chair of the communications committee.
All right, so thanks everybody for coming. We're also live streaming it, then it'll let me know if we've typically gotten a couple of viewers during the live event part of it, and then we post the recording also. So if you saw today's communications, if you've seen the other ones, this is a refresher, but I did want to ground us into where we are and how we got here and then open it up for detailed questions. So what did we hear in the focus groups and in the survey, anecdotally, after the vote, during the vote, reduce the increase, the first year increase, and spread it out across 3 years? Come on in. Late. You're fine. Joe Nicholson on our board, so thank you. Focus TLA resources on maintaining the infrastructure and services residents value most and ease the financial pressure by delaying select capital projects and replenishing reserves more gradually. Breaking it down, what did we do? The first year increase goes from 796 to 256, and then we spread that increase more evenly over the 3 years. What does that mean for a household? $1,100 less we're asking from you over a 3-year period. So almost $5 million in total. We removed and deferred projects to minimize the overall increase and then focused the funding on resident priorities that we heard about in the survey: infrastructure, maintenance, safety, and landscaping. Landscaping was interesting too, because coming back to that rated a little bit higher than our ancillary safety and security services like patrols, emergency response, which was somewhat surprising. They were neck and neck, but it shows how important the aesthetics are here as well as the services. So that was some nice data to have to act on. First year increase originally was 30%, now it's under 10% and goes down slightly from there each of the next 2 years. One thing we heard from people is we don't want to build up the reserves to the level that we wanted to put the reserves out, and we think ultimately our community needs and deserves. Okay, so what we've done is we've decreased the amount that's going into the reserves. That does increase the risk of special assessment. And one thing people don't understand often is if we do a special assessment, we can't just special assess. It's the exact same vote as what we're doing right now. We need a 60% quorum and we need 2/3 approval. The good news is we're up to 29% right now. So the vote started 9 a.m. Saturday, so within 3.5 days, we're close to halfway to our quorum. So
That's 29% of the votes. We don't know how they're going. We just know.
we have no idea. But stage 1 is get that 60% quorum. We're doing this all electronically. We've had a couple of questions about that. For the timing of it and also all the materials we get produced before, we wanted to go ahead and get this out to everybody and also not incur the expense of another voting packet at the same time. 16 households we don't have emails for, so we mailed them packets because we did get that question in today. And we will allow people to come in here and vote. If you do a paper ballot, our auditor will put that in, so we'll never know.
Carl, a lot of chatter online about people not finding their vote.
So we pushed out another credentials this afternoon after lunch. That's helped us jump up from 20% to almost 30%. We have had a lot of people writing us in the last day and a half, I think because of the chatter, saying, hey, I haven't gotten my information. The staff have, I joked with one of them, I said, you probably got blisters on your fingers now because they're sending all the information out to them within 10 minutes when people are writing in. So that's really helping us push that response rate really quickly. Completing work that isn't critical or doing too many projects. Couple things on this. Marsh Tower removed from the proposal. Let's talk about that real quickly. That was something we heard about in the last vote during the period of, I like it, but why are we spending this much money? There are questions about ownership of the land, although we've always maintained it. And so getting a permit for it in that location would be challenging, if not impossible. We floated the idea of maybe doing a pier or something in another location. There was not community support for that at that time. So that is not in the next 3 years of the proposal. We did just complete engineering work that we think we can make very minimal repairs at a very minimal cost and shortly extend the life of the tower. We don't want to have something that's unsafe for people to be in, so we had some engineering review of that. But we're not talking about adding 5 or 10 years on the tower at this point. And so we just want to be clear, this is not in the proposal. If this is something the community eventually decides is important and we can find a location, we'll continue that community discussion about that. Delegate Creek Marina Boardwalk replacement, we've deferred that out of this 3-year period. We had hoped to go in and replace all the decking with either a composite decking or a lightweight concrete like we've done in some other areas. We do get complaints about the boards that are over there, but this rated lower on our survey when we asked people where they wanted to spend the money. So what we're gonna do is we've increased the maintenance, annual maintenance costs for that line item so we can continue to replace the boards like we're doing right now, but we don't have it budgeted for a full-scale replacement in this 3-year cycle that we're talking about. Talked about, we previously said we needed to fully fund roads and storm drains. We are. No change in the storm drain amount. Roads, a slight decrease, about $100,000 decrease, and that's our tertiary roads. That's our small hammerheads, 5 or 6 houses on it. We're extending the life of those a couple of years. So that's where we get there. But for the most part, those haven't changed, and we tried to be clear about that in the voting packet also. Original vote, you see it was $33.90 with a 30% increase, $28.50 with under a 10% increase. We end in a similar ballpark. It's still a couple $100 lower by the end of the 3rd year, but since we don't have that jump up the 1st year, again, this is where you're saving $1,100 over the 3-year total while getting us a little bit closer. Still looking to have a very significant chunk going into capital. These are projected allocations, so the board votes on those every year to see the actual allocation, but we should be right at that one for 2027. So again, what we're trying to do is say, okay, our capital needs remain, and how do we prioritize differently than we did a few months ago? First vote would have brought in about $5 million more to the reserves. We've talked about that money. The expenses would have been a little bit less in the that we're doing now in the ending balance. So you see the ending balance is almost $2 million less, and we're doing less work out of it. So that's where you see a big change right there from 1 and 2 when you talk about the capital reserves. Now, when you talk about the major expenditures over the next 3 years, this is the roads. It's a little bit over $9 million in the original package. Storm drains is the same. We do still have bridges, structures, and equipment as one of our big parts. Community paths, this was an interesting one. We had hoped to increase our spending on our community paths. We also heard in the survey how important the community paths are to residents. However, as we look at where can we make some savings to get a palatable vote that the owners will support, we did have to go back to more historical levels we've been spending the last few years on the path. So we want to maintain what we have. We might not be improving the paths like we had hoped to be able to do, but we do have to find some money to make this fit within the parameters. Lagoons and lagoon structures, those scored really high on the survey on how important those are for residents. And I think not only the aesthetics for the residents, and they see that, but as y'all know, it's their storm water management system and water retention ponds, and I think Sean always says, it's a water retention pond, but lagoon sounds nicer, right?
Yeah.
So
Sounds
There's
awesome.
there's also a lot of chatter right now about the lagoons. I mean, today there was a significant amount. I actually, it's the first time ever I answered one because I was so angry.
What was the
What's
chatter
the
about?
chatter?
Sorry?
Oh,
Lagoons
you're not
and
taking
piers.
care of the lagoons, they're a mess, they're stagnant, they're not doing stuff, and finally, right?
Yeah, and when the heat index is 117
Yeah, it's
degrees.
high.
I know, that's-
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
sure you gave the right answer on that.
It causes algae.
Yes. Well, and we can do thank you, Lynn's in here, so we can do a standalone, just reminding people, when it's this hot, and you get a rain event on top of that, that's gonna cause issues too, so, we can dust that off, so I
Well,
appreciate
the
it.
club just sent an email today about trouble with Oak Ridge's green, so from the same thing, from the
Okay.
heat. So
Right.
it's,
The heat's tough, yeah.
so I'm just,
So thank you. That's the kind of thing that, we want to interact with people. It's interesting too, because the emails we've been putting out, we've been saying, if you have questions, email Webmaster or go to our forum. And people are starting to use our forum for the first time ever. So this is very helpful, and we want to say, have some of this conversation with your neighbors. Landings.org/forum. And so we're putting that into our communications.
Good. Yeah.
The gate access control equipment, this is basically call boxes. We did just have to replace 3 that got struck by lightning about 3 weeks ago. So this number may go up higher over 3 years, but also the recording system for our 75 security cameras, so it's time to replace that. So obviously, security is right up there with why people live here, and we want to maintain that and protect that. So going along with that, if we don't have a successful vote, these are protected. We said this all along, the roads and the storm drains. Everything else over here is, we're gonna have to look at and see what can we fund within our more limited budget. Services, again, this, community safety and security came in just below the landscaping, but very important. The landscaping is in the public works, community development. These are the kind of items that people see every day. We see here, they've come to expect it. This is what we want to maintain. We don't want to cut anything. So people sometimes say, well, tell me exactly what you're going to cut if we vote no. That's a hard thing to do, because everything we cut back is a struggle for us. This is something that's important to people. You said it's important in the survey, and we're going for a successful yes vote is what we're focusing on right now. We've talked before about this. We're like a little city. We did have somebody write in recently and say, you're not a city, you're just an HOA, and we think we're a little city. We're 8,500 to 10,000 people. We have 91 miles of roads that we have to maintain. We have 33 miles of community docks that we maintain, 87 miles of storm drains. If you study Atlanta or read about some of the other municipalities and see all the issues they're having with their stormwater system because they're not investing in it. Tidy, they're spending $20 million, I think is what it is. So this is something that is important to us to maintain. I know there's been a little chatter on employees. There's no employee headcount increase in the next 3 years that we're recommending or maintaining at the 81 employees. And so now the vote's out, as I mentioned, we're at 29% turnout, and we have almost 4 more weeks to go. So we're hopeful we're gonna get that quorum and get it quickly, and let's get to the end of the voting period and let's move on. So I'm gonna open it up to questions. So who has the first question for us? Yes.
I guess. I've read some of this data. I haven't gotten through all of it, but appreciate it. And I appreciate everything everybody does here. I know volunteers, it's difficult doing this kind of, some of us aren't volunteers, I get it, but we appreciate what everybody does. Well, I saw a nice PowerPoint of looked like that survey, the meetings or something.
Mm-hmm.
Do you actually have the report itself? I just love to look at those things. Is that something they can just put online?
Let me look at that. There was a finalized report I was waiting on, and I haven't had a chance to see about that, but Lynn's getting notes for me, so we will see if we have the finalized version, because we did have the PowerPoint highlight, and we are owed the finalized version that we could certainly post, so yes. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
And we'll probably post that online where you have to log in, because there are some things we want it to be re-logged in, but we'll make that very, very clear. Yep, thank you. That's the next question.
This isn't a dues question, but were those 2 separate lightning strikes that just happened to hit those gates? Or was there one lightning strike that proliferated?
On Saturday,
Yeah.
it was 2 separate.
Oh my.
So
It was loud.
It does
Oak
strike
Ridge,
twice.
yeah, Oak Ridge and Marshview Landing.
And we just talked about this with the board earlier today, Lisa, that when we switched over to RFIDs, I thought it was longer ago, but maybe 7, 8 years ago from barcodes. For whatever reason, the equipment was less susceptible to lightning hits. We used to always get them with the barcode readers. Then until last August, no issues. And then last August, Deer Creek Village Gate, which is the one we now have the hardware back, we believe, where we need it to be, and are working on some other issues. But we're looking at different things. Sean's team has been working with our vendor about, lightning surge suppressions and grounding and that kind of stuff. Things that we haven't needed before, but we're having more and more violent storms than we've been seeing.
The weather app, and I pulled it up during that storm to see how close that last strike was.
It was above my house.
Yes, the one that caused me to run to the men's room.
Yeah.
It showed, I found my notes, it showed 56 lightning strikes around.
I looked at it too.
So it
I've
wasn't
never
one
seen
too
one
late.
that loud.
And Don, there was actually, I said today that the Wells Fargo Bank was out of commission all day yesterday as a result of lightning strike. It hit the tree behind the bank, so I mean.
Looking at the radar thing was scary.
Yeah, it's
We're
been,
not getting notices now.
A billion volts is a big number of volts.
Yes.
yeah.
All right, what else? Any other
Okay.
questions related to
Carl,
the?
on a good note is I had to get myself over to Oak Ridge today at noon. And even though that gate isn't working, got right in, no issues.
Good.
Because somebody's there to help
Thank
us
you.
help us get to where we need to get to.
I appreciate that, and if y'all haven't had a chance to meet Jim Griner, he's our new security, but we're trying to be more encompassing. He's very hands-on, he's very in the field, he's very root cause solution oriented. So I was saying to the board earlier, when he came on at the beginning of June, I had 3 priorities for him. I didn't realize that Deer Creek North Gate was still going to be, or Deer Creek Village Gate was still going to be an issue. So he's been taking up a lot of his time, but he's out there. I mean, he's working on stuff. He's pulling. He's really doing a good job. So I'm glad to hear his staff. He moves them around if we're having a gate issue without adding to overtime. He's redeploying and really doing a good job.
I was threading, trying to get through there, and it was nice.
Great. I'm glad to hear that. Any other questions about annual dues?
Well,
Yes.
let's make another comment
Yes.
perhaps if, not even a question, I'm not sure if it'll turn into a question or not. One of the things from the last vote, talked to a number of people, and a lot always brought up an example to me, and I was like, okay, let's discuss it. And it was about the,
Main
yeah,
gate-
thank you.
The main,
I don't know what to call
the
that.
main gate traffic patterns.
Most folks call it debacle.
Sure.
Was the term.
Yes. Yes.
And my thoughts, I think there was a good idea probably behind it.
Yes.
You obviously get a lot of A-types out here, right, that are interested and that aren't exactly involved specifically on a committee or something and maybe don't know something, including myself.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop them from talking though.
No, it certainly doesn't. And that's why I'm trying to think if there's a way, if we're gonna do a study on something and we're gonna pay real money for it, putting that out early before we ever do it, to see what kind of kick you get back on it. And it might be constructive, some might, maybe not, but I think that's one of the rubs that I heard from a lot of people with it. Hey, they're gonna blow it on something like.
Right. So yes,
Right.
yes. Have we? Total cost was under $5,000. So I've heard a lot of. I won't throw other numbers out there because that might stick in your head. It was under $5,000.
Yeah.
However,
that's a lot less.
what we did. It based on a safety traffic study, so it's for a safety issue.
Hold it up.
And we had to, there you go. And then,
We got it in January 24.
and
Yeah, I
so,
remember hearing it.
yeah, and so while we had the crews out here anyway, we said, let's give it a shot. And so we gave the community 1 week notice. Was that enough? No. Did we learn that? Yes. And so, we said, well, we don't want to have, we want to save costs on mobilization and we want to give this a shot. And we switched it back 24 hours later. We put out a message to then board president and I said, hey, listen, learn, like here, we're always going to learn something. And the lesson was we didn't bring the community along slowly enough and as involved enough as that needed to be to make a change of that has never been done. So that's really guided a lot of our philosophy since then. Because I promise you, for Sean and me, we don't want to relive that, right? So that's one of those things. Now, I do say you got to get up and take a swing at something. You know, you got to get up to bat, and you're not always going to get a home run. You're going to strike out like we did there. But people still talk about that. They talk about other issues too. And what we have to say is, we're not perfect. We're going to make the best decision we can, but we're going to quickly adapt if it's not the right decision. So that's really the philosophy that we try to guide ourselves on.
And Carl, I also think you need to also say that it wasn't all a bad idea. Because if we have a disaster and one of the roads is cut, you at least now have a way to get out of here. You need to keep repeating that as well, because
any paving or any thing, like the work, a lot of the work that was done, yes, is good now forevermore for repaving or for ingress and egress. I think Patty had something in there.
My only comment, and it's along Rosemary's line, the study was done to protect ourselves from liability, to ensure we had looked into what safety issues we could and should address. We reacted for the safety and liability and protection of the community. Obviously, the residents didn't like it, but that was the focus, and we can't stop looking into protecting the safety and liability of the community.
for risk.
But also I think what people don't realize is that there's whole communities and, committees and boards that review all of this work and decide on it. It's not one person in a closet making the decision. So I think that's probably something that needs to be educated on. People
It
just
clearly is, and
don't realize.
the people who, I sat beside a gentleman at the last drop-in and said, well, we ought to get some financial people to look at the budgets. I went, oh, do you see these two auditor ladies back here that were national auditors for Fortune 500 companies? They've looked at it and they haven't just ignored it.
Yeah.
Now, they wanted CEOs of major companies on the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's what we need, more type A personnel.
It's as good as all of the people who know exactly how our roads should be fixed. Well, we have more engineers who can tell you what to do than we have in this whole, ridiculous.
Don, did you?
There's two other things that I wish the residents had a better understanding of this. First off, a lot of folks will, because they don't pay attention to anything that's put out, something will happen and they'll say, I never knew about it, what are they doing? There's no transparency, they're on Facebook slamming us all. It's just because they didn't read what was put out. It was out there, but they didn't read it. And then the other thing is, if from this one individual's perspective, they don't think it's a worthwhile thing to do, they go on a warpath about what a waste of money it is. They have no idea how many other people might have asked for it, or what the rationale for doing it, and they don't bother to ask. They just start mouthing off on
Well, I don't disagree at all about that with social media. I think there's way too much blab on every topic, quite frankly. And it does, it cuts into some of the good work you folks really are doing, because they don't have the background and, hey, here's what was done.
What's your name, sir? You're a resident of the day.
I'm becoming a little list of things I'd like to see on my cul-de-sac. How's that?
And the other thing, people don't read, which makes it really difficult to get the message out.
Yeah.
So we just had one here, where somebody didn't see something, we'll send it out again. Well, you send out things so many times, and people are saying, I'm flooded with this. Well, yeah, you're flooded with it because half the people aren't reading it, and this poor half over here have got to be flooded. So it's a real challenge to get the word out, and that's not unique to the landings.
No, I
That's,
agree with that. It's just any
But
HOA situation.
But the point is, we need to let people know further in advance
yeah.
and get their comments on stuff before we do big changes.
Yes. That's a great lesson learned.
Yeah.
We learned that loud and hard and hard.
The other thing, Carl, is I think the history is interesting. A lot of people don't understand why we have this cockamamie coming in. They don't
Different
understand
developers and
that it was two
right.
different developers, and when you understand that, it makes sense. If you don't know why it's like that, of course you're going to complain.
Do we want to talk about roundabouts now?
No, talk about what?
Roundabouts? No? Okay, all right. I'm just trying to get a non-controversial topic. Does anybody have any other questions, annual dues, or any other related CLA business?
Kind of decide.
Yeah.
The gazebo, what's the status of the gazebo?
So the gazebo is on club property, and the clubs,
Oh, okay.
and they're looking at right now what they may or may not want to do. Now, that's something that I don't think they could get permitted in that location. We talked about the Marsh Tower.
Yeah.
Things change since things have been put in. So even if they wanted to put that in, I don't know that they, Sean, speak,
No, they're well within the existing county and state buffers. They would have to move it to the other side of the community paths to get outside of those buffers, closer kind of to the cemetery, which I don't know how much of the appeal that takes away.
None.
All of it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so they're starting to look at some of that. That's similar challenges we have with the Marsh Tower is that the location and as things have changed and policies and laws have changed.
Yeah. They have a multi-decade asset that now, even since that time, the county put in an extra 10 feet on their line about what you can or can't do. So it's staying out of the jurisdictional, DNR jurisdictional line, the county line, what's allowed, what's not allowed. So it's, we love what we have, but the not only is the waterway and the marsh and the water changing, but the regulations are too.
So Carlton, to the point of the Marsh Tower, it sounds like there's a small amount of money being put towards it just to maintain it.
Yes.
Does it seem like it's going to be a tear down project eventually because we can't go into the
I
market
think
with
so
it?
in that location, yes. I think in that location, because if you go to even some of our regular high tides, not even just a king tide and not a flood, the marsh, I mean, it's called the marsh, but now it's, water's all around it and everything. And so, that goes to the marsh has changed, the landscape has changed, we have more extreme flooding than when it was put in. So this is something that, if the community wants us to spend dollars doing something in that area, we would have a conversation with the community doing that. But what we're trying to do right now is say, how do we make it safe? We don't want to shut it down just to shut it down. How can we make it safe at minimal cost for some indeterminate amount of time? So that's what we're working through, some engineering recommendations right now.
And it may not be a tear down, it may be a fall down.
It's,
Yeah.
could be.
Because the amount of money to tear it down is also pretty substantial.
Yeah. It's could be.
And we've actually been looking at creative methods to, if we did have to take it down, where we have some reclaim companies that have looked. If you look at some of the beams in there, are pretty significant.
Yeah.
They have some of the older treatments that you can't find anymore.
Hmm.
And so we've talked to a couple different groups as far as, if you need that beam, you
Yeah.
gotta take the rest of this with you, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Well, and Sean and his team are really creative. This goes along to the cost savings or thing. Think about this one then, because we just sold some millings that we had, and we've sold concrete, and we've sold other kind of things that we need some of it, but we don't need all of it, and other people can use it. So they're getting very creative about how can we turn what may be extra
Trying to be less hoarders.
Who's
Yes.
buying? Who's buying those? That's interesting.
So concrete is actually in high demand just because of the price of rock. They'll actually crush it and then sell it back as riprap or GAB. The asphalt millings are in high demand too because their primary material is asphalt or oil. And so the state and federal law has requirements for a certain amount of recycled material to go back into asphalt. With all the roads projects we have going on with Highway 17, with 95, there's 21's getting ready to start up. Those plants have to have so much of that material on site when they get inspected to show that they're putting the recycled materials back in. So we've had 2 or 3 different companies. So a lot of it went to Binder Mace for the Highway 95 project. Some of it's going for Highway 21 now. And so we're trying to sell a little bit of it, but also keep it, if we need to utilize it for refurbishing our base. We also use it around if you go to the RV yards, instead of having to buy stone, we use it as our stone base.
Alongside some of the community paths.
Alongside some of the community paths. That didn't go over as well because it's not as pretty. Yeah, but it's one of the better materials. When it compacts, it almost goes back like asphalt.
Yeah.
But can we do stories on that? That's really impressive.
Yeah,
I
we're-
wonder, does it help our lead certification as
Yeah.
well? Because we're not like putting waste in, we're
Exactly.
recycling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Are there any other questions?
So I'd like to point out one thing. So, people challenged us as to why we asked for what we did in the first vote. This year, we're going to spend approximately 1.4 million more than what we allocated for the reserve spending in the assessment that you're paying this year. 1.4 million. Next year, we're gonna spend about 1.2 million more than we're gonna take in. That's why we ask for the big amount, because we want it not to build our reserves, we want it to replenish our reserves. That was what our goal was. And that's what the community said, no, it's too much. So what we're doing, you know, when Carl talked about the reserves, we're not trying to build the reserves. We're trying to replenish the reserves and get back to the levels that we were in 2024. And that's what our goal is, and we'll spread that out. And when I explain that, and people say, well, it's $200 difference in the last year in what you're getting. Well, what difference is that? Well, it's $4.5 million. That's the difference. That's 2 years worth of paving that we don't get to do because we're having to gradually rebuild our reserves back to the levels that we had it and be in a position to go forward. From a treasurer's standpoint, I'm looking at a budget for the next 3 years that is expense front-end loaded and revenue back-end loaded. That's not something I'm comfortable with, but I recognize that's what we have to do to make progress to move forward. And if we can get back to those sustainable levels of getting enough revenue from the assessment to manage the outlays, we're a 50-year-old plus community. It's not getting any cheaper to redo our infrastructure. It's just going to get more expensive. So we've got to get to a level where we can maintain that. And this budget puts us in that position. Doesn't get us there how we want it to. It forces us to take greater risk, particularly in the first 2 years, where next year where we're spending more, we start to break even in the second, and we hope to recover it in the third. So that's what this budget does. That's how it's different from the first. That's the risk we're taking, but we heard the community saying it's too much at one time, so we're spreading it out over 3 years. We lose $4.5 million in doing that, but at the end of the 3 years, starting 2030, I think we're in a more sustainable position to where the increases would not have to be as great to keep up, and they'll be inflationary driven. Now, CPI is something that's thrown out. CPI is not applicable to replacement of roads and lagoon structures and bridges. It just doesn't calculate. So we built in some increases in a third year because our contracts come up for renewal for our roads and for our storm drain work. So those are things that we're anticipating. Do we anticipate the right amount? Who knows? My crystal ball's pretty cloudy. If somebody's got a clear one, please loan it to me.
Well, it's an industry going through consolidation.
Yeah, the industry's
So
going
that's
through
gonna have an
consolidation.
impact on pricing in 3 years.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
but
so
that's what we've done. It's our best effort to respond to what we heard from the community, not forego our fiduciary responsibility to maintain the community and keep it in a situation where people want to live here. So that's the balancing act that we're trying to do.
is there a best practice of how reserves should be?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we're falling below it.
Yes.
That's why, you know, I think that would be interesting, right? Because again, like if you think about the club side, the club here wants to be best of all. Well, you're gonna need best of all houses and a homeowner in an area to support a club like that, right? And so if there is best practice and we're falling below it, that is something that would resonate negatively with me. I
But we've
want.
taught them that.
We
over
talked
years.
about that
We've
the
told them
first
that.
time, nobody
But,
understood it.
We've told them that
unfortunately,
for the last 6 years, I would say.
reserve amounts are both art and science. Okay,
Right.
so there's a science that said here's on the average what you should get and what you should have.
Yeah.
But then you have to look at, in all of those HOAs, what's the difference in those HOAs? Some are condominium associations, some are large residential
Yeah.
communities like us. And so the balance, and so we look at it, what is our planned spending? Because that figures into it.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about, you know, initially we planned to spend 20 million, now we've cut that to 18 million. And the other difference is we cut what we asked for in the reserves to what we're now trying to have. And so that's how we made it up. It was a combination of reducing the spending, reducing the reserve amounts that we would have to try to get to a level. If we get to the 12.6 at the end, we could be close to what the minimum threshold is, okay? We won't be exceeding it because what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
In the last year,
Something's
the
gonna happen.
value of our whole assets went from 60 million to 66 and a half. We're gonna see some kind of increase in the next 3 years too. And so what balances we have and any increases in that are gonna be negated by the overall increase in the value of the reserves. And do we have that percentage level there? So those are all the art and science trying to come together to get us in a place that doesn't put us at great risk. We know for the next 2 years, we're at a significant risk if we have
Right, like, yeah,
a disastrous event
and that's
occur.
how it happened in
Okay.
2024, that's how
And we
it's
have
been
to
down.
pay for that.
Yeah.
You're always gonna have things that you plan to last 15 years, they last 12. You know, you plan for it to be this replacement cost,
Yeah.
and it's that times a multiple. You know, so you're always gonna have some of those things. We've done a very good job, from what I've seen in the 2 years that I've been on the board, generally coming in under what we've allocated. So we resell our trucks at a certain level, so that we generally, when we have to trade equipment in, we come in less than what we had budgeted for and get the new equipment. So Sean and his department do a great job in that. You know, our financial people in helping estimate what that would be. But there are those unknowns. So
Yeah.
an example of that is in Sweet Fern in Deer Creek. We had not planned to go there for any storm pipe replacements for quite a while. But yet this summer we had a pipe fail. It started to erode the street collapsed. We had to go in there and fix that. That was a $78,000 unplanned expense, okay, for an area that we never even thought. But we put the cameras in there, we could see the hole in the pipe. We knew we had to fix the hole and cement it over before we could slip line it for the slip lining to work. So those are the kind of things we encounter.
Yeah.
Last year, right before Oak Ridge was getting ready to open, we had a valve in one of the lagoons on 17 fail. We had to replace that because that valve controlled all of the lagoons all up and down Oak Ridge, along West Cross for the outflow into the marsh. It also helped regulate the water that would be available for irrigation. You know, so those are kind of things that you just have to step up and do.
Yeah.
It wasn't planned. If it had waited 2 years, it'd been right in the plan for when we planned. So that's why you have reserves, because things don't happen when you would like for them to. They happen when they happen.
I keep telling Bill, they're not really assets, they're
They're
obligations.
liabilities.
They're obligations.
Yeah.
They're,
Yeah.
and I think
Yeah.
they're here in perpetuity, hopefully.
Yeah,
But the other thing is, what we all understand that.
right.
What the community sees is you've got
Yeah.
X millions of dollars. Why do you need more? You've already got that amount. To
Yeah.
them, that's a lot of
Yeah.
money. And we have
But I
not
just think-
done a really good job of, I mean, I understand everything Bill's saying because I lived it for the 3 years before him. But the fact of the matter is, if you say we have $10 million, they say, well, that's a lot of money. We do not, and that, unfortunately, how do we change that? And that's the big issue.
That's exactly what I think it's an optics issue.
Yes.
It is.
What you say makes perfectly good
Yeah.
sense. I get that. Another association I was involved with, actually some property owner up in Augusta, what the previous board did is that they just kind of used capital funds for basically whatever they wanted to, right? And once we got in, we realized, I see the problem. You know, better communication, which I know we've discussed anyway, of, hey, a 10th slide. Here's how we spend an extra $1 million that we didn't expect to spend. You know, something just to help show why we are where we're at is always helpful.
And another thing people don't understand is we actually have separate accounts for the reserves and for our operating money. They go into separate accounts, they get dispersed from separate checking accounts. Once it goes in the reserve, it stays in the reserve until it's used for a reserve item, you know, for a capital expense or an infrastructure expense. And people didn't understand that. So in the course of this campaign, you know, we've tried to explain that. And it is an optics.
It looks like a lot of money, but, and trying to
But we
explain
did
the
hear,
basis for it.
people were not comfortable with us having $14 million of their money. And so we're sensitive to that. So what's the minimum that we can have where we can operate and be comfortable that we will have the necessary reserves?
I think reserves are gonna continue to be an interesting question in the future because already legislation stipulates a lot about reserves for condos. And if that legislation flips over to HOAs and they are requiring that you have a 30% reserve or whatever that number is, we're gonna have no choice.
And we're seeing some government, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are starting to require certain minimums reserves before they will make money.
Yes.
Mortgages.
And so we don't have a lot of houses that are gonna qualify in that. But most
Yeah.
states require HOAs to have a reserve, and many states require the minimum level. Georgia's one that doesn't have a law on that, either in requiring or setting any minimum level.
And hooray for Sean, because 4 years ago, we didn't even have that damn camera.
That's right.
We didn't know, we didn't know.
All right, well, thanks everybody for coming.
Thank
If you have
you.
any follow-up questions, please let me know and we will get the answers to you. If you see something online that sparks some interest or concern, let me know as well, and we'll get the right
But
information.
Carl, we're also asking folks that come to these info sections or education sessions, turn yourself into an ambassador.
Yeah.
I mean, the
Yeah.
passion around the negative vote
Yeah.
is way stronger than the passion and support around a positive vote. Yeah, I get it, I'm voting, but you gotta take it throughout the community, to your peer groups and golf groups and.
It's an education issue.
And sometimes if you say it, they may trust you.
Yeah, I had a woman who did not know that I was on the committee, and she told me her opinions, and I asked her, like, where did she get her information? You know, did you get it on the website? No. Did you get it in your email? No. Did you get it on social media? No. Okay. Where is your information? So, yeah. It's always gonna be the age-old thing of people reading.
Yeah, and Dennis, same thing. I mean, you know, you're talking to your friends, your coworkers, and an issue comes up and you don't feel, how do I explain it? What is the right answer? And, we can help through that process.
Send it in, we'll answer any question.
How many people have actually come to these 3 sessions? None.
One,
Us.
2, 3, 4.
Disappointing number.
Yeah.
We've
I
had
think
about
we need
12
to
in the
say that.
first 2 and then
Yeah, well, we're averaging about 6.
I think you need to say that.
Yeah, and you
I
can
think-
always say that the information is, which I think you can feel good about, like, talk about transparency. You can always point to all the information, and it's in depth if you want it, and it's summarized if you want it. So talk about best practice, and then you can point to these, and you can point to the live streams, and then it's on the homeowner.
Mm-hmm.
So, my last president's message, I said, here are some of the questions that
Yeah.
people continually ask, and here's where to find the information, where it has always been posted with the links.
I know, it was awesome.
an email and it was in the Land Use Journal. The next day, I'm looking on Facebook, and what are they posting? Vote no until we get some transparency and some answers. There are none so blind as those who will not see.